welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to KGX to the Z TV. Appreciate everybody checking in, locking in with me. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe. But back today with a match review. Chelsea 1, Servette 2. Chelsea goes through on aggregate 4-3. General thoughts about the game? We'll get into it. We'll get into it. But let's start from the beginning, right? So we'll start with the pre-match news. So as you can see, Garage Talk full effect, right? Pre-match news, right? So we knew there was going to be no Neto. We knew that there was going to be no Lavia. Who else was missing? We knew that those two were going to be, their fitness was going to be monitored, right? We know Neto getting back from a serious hamstring injury last year. Lavia also dealing with a hamstring injury. So Maresca pretty much said before the match that those two were not going to feature. We're not going to travel. We're not going to play. Couldn't get João Felix registered in time for the playoffs, but he should be registered for the UCL since we are going through again 4-3 on aggregate. So squad was very, very limited, right? Two keepers on the bench, Tyreek George, Archie Pyong, who else? Gui. Lot of I think we actually left like 2 slots open, which is kind of crazy. But then, considering the number of players we have, but also when you factor in about 36 hours at the time of the match, 36 hours left in the transfer window, a lot of players that we had didn't want to risk their fitness in terms of hurting a potential move, right? So we know already, check out the last video that I put up about who's probably staying with the squad, who's going on loan, who is trying to be sold, right? The likes of Sterling, the likes of Chilwell, Lukaku's off the books now. Kepa's off the not technically off the books since he signed a 1-year extension, but he's over there at at Bournemouth now, with rumors of Neto going to Arsenal to be their number 2 since since Arsenal sold Ramsdale to Southampton. So a lot of trickle-down effects, right? But back to the match, right? So starting lineup, we knew Caicedo had a little bump at the end of, or a little knock at the end of the last match, so we knew that he probably wasn't going to start. So the back 4 remained unchanged. Actually, the back 5 remained unchanged from the first leg, right? That was Jurgensen in goal, right back to Sassy, right center back, Tosin, left center back, Badiashile, left back Renato Vega. Midfield, you had Enzo, who was captaining the side, and then you had Dewsbury Hall. Left side, you had Mudryk, who's, I think, 3 straight starts, right? In that number 10, you had Nkuku, and then on the right side, you had Madueke coming off of his hat trick against Wolves, and then Gui up top with the likes of Jackson, Palmer, Caicedo, maybe Fofana, and some of the folks that seem to be getting the minutes in the league on the bench, right? So came out, first of all, the pitch was just atrocious, right? Like I've played on Sunday League fields that looked better than that. I mean, just huge patches. There were rumors of it was AstroTurf with some grass laid on top. You could really tell by some of the chances that we had and just the way the passing and just wasn't crisp and fluid. And that's not no excuse at all. There really is no excuse for the performance that we put out there tonight. But that pitch was just, it's not, for a team that was very close to qualifying for the Europa League, that pitch was shocking. For a team that is wanting to qualify for the Conference League, that pitch is shocking, right? That UEFA really has to step up the standards, right? If you can't have a field that is up to a certain level of quality, you shouldn't be hosting these kind of matches, right? But regardless, right? So we come out and we're controlling it. We've got some chances falling to us. We've got a great chance where it might have been Enzo who slips in, or maybe even Vega who slips in Cuckoo, and the ball bounces up a little bit, and in the second touch, he just can't lift it over the keeper. Shout out to the keeper. He did make a host of really good saves. Probably the man of the match if you're talking about just from an overall match performance for both sides. But had a good chance to go one up. Madueke was creating a few things on the right hand side. Mujic doing what Mudryk does on the left hand side, beating a man, but then ultimately sending in a terrible cross, whether that's either a terrible cross or shooting it into the rosette. But we finally we get the break, right? We think it's Dewsbury Hall or Vega plays a ball over the top like a switch to Mudryk. Mudryk does a great job of playing the bounce correctly, gets his body in front of it, and the Servette right back takes him down in the box, ref points immediately to the spot, and Cuckoo steps up, slots it home. It is 1-0. Four at that time, 3-0 on aggregate, and we are looking like, all right, put this one to bed early, get the youngsters on, get Tyreek George on, get Archipong on, get some minutes in those guys, let them get some experience and things like that. But unfortunately, as we've seen countless and countless times with this team going back to last year and even showing signs of it this year in preseason, we lose concentration and we just completely lose focus, right? It already doesn't help that you can just tell by the body language that the guys like Madueke doesn't want to be out there, right? Whether or not he thinks he's too good coming off of his hat trick or his recent call up to the English national side. Congrats, Nani, on that, as well as Colwell getting back into the side, and of course Cole Palmer. But we just look like we are just going through the motions, right? We look like we are a side that thinks we have it won on paper, and it plays out on the pitch in the rest of the half, and then even into the second half. We just it's lackadaisical, lapses of concentration. We get beat with a goal straight down the center of our defense. This time it's the Servette attacker beating Enzo and gets his body across Disasi. Disasi, who's rumored to be on the chopping block. Newcastle sniffing around if they can't get Gahey over the line, but he lets the attacker get in front of him, and instead of pulling him down, taking the yellow, and then just moving on, and we give up the free kick, but we don't give it up. We instead give up a goal because the defense just capitulates, right? And it all starts from a terrible and shockingly, right? I know this is going to come as a big shock to all of us Chelsea fans, but Badiashile turnover, right? Just a poor misplaced pass, no pressure on him, trying to do too much. He's looking one way, he passes it the other way, it goes directly to the opposition, and then they beat Enzo, and then they're straight down onto our defense, and then for some crazy reason too, Badiashile is trying to draw the guy off sides, trying to play him off sides, and guy's one-on-one with the keeper, and he just slots it home, and it's 1-1, 3-1 on aggregate. Still calm, and we're creating chances. Jackson's got not this that's much later in the game, but and Cuckoo's got a couple of opportunities. Who else? KDH just put in not an all-time, but just put in another stinker performance. Partly not down to him because, as I mentioned before in one of our transfer roundup videos, we have left the midfield extremely short, which sounds crazy for a team that's spent over £1 billion in the last 18 months, 2 windows, I think, if you add it all up. But without Lavia, without Caicedo, we have no one else that can play in that sort of double pivot that Maresca likes. And I know, we normally go with 3 across the back in possession, 3-2-5 kind of, with Vega or whoever the left center back is, and sometimes it's Gusto on the right side, maybe Reece James when he comes back in. But they'll step up into the midfield, and then they'll play a double pivot. This time it would have been with Enzo, release KDH up a little bit higher. But the problem with that is without Caicedo or without Lavia, KDH is not a natural holding type of midfielder, right? He is more of a box-to-box. And you can see that some of his muscle memory from playing kind of in that left 8 or that right 8 was sort of coming back into fruition because he was making his runs and getting forward, and he's leaving Enzo to cover the entire midfield by himself with Vega, but Vega's also trying to cover the midfield and also trying to play left back a little bit. So the cover there is just it's just extremely we left it bare with Ugochukwu going out on loan, with Santos going out on loan. I understand that those two need minutes for their development and potentially, if you're not going to introduce them to the first team, to move them on and kind of increase their value. But at the same time, don't leave yourself short in the midfield, right? We're going to be asking Lavio, who couldn't stay fit last year and has already missed 2 games, plus the game on the weekend against Bournemouth, and probably will be back after the international break. But we left it with him. We left it with Enzo coming off of a hernia, and with Caicedo, who's been just kicked all over the place already this year, which is kind of fair because I know he does his fair share of kicking. But we've just left it extremely bare in the midfield, and the balance is just completely off, right? We already know that defending is shocking and all over the place. Badiashile with another performance that just has you questioning why he is in the plans, and someone like Chalaba, who I don't even rate that highly, but he is much more competent defender than Badiashile, right? Badiashile's just, he's slow, he's lackadaisical, he has concentration efforts, he's not aggressive. He looks the part, and for times under Graham Potter, he played very well, but this system that Maresca wants to play, he's not it. He's not it. Now Tosin, we give up a second goal, a header. Jorgensen slips in the box again, pitch terrible, but Tosin just fails to deal with it. Other than that, I thought Tosin had a fairly decent game. He was calm in possession. He did sniff out a lot of what could be attacks and things like that. But just those are the two that are going to have to play in the Conference League. And if we're struggling with the likes of Servette, it's looking spooky. It's going to look spooky for that defense, and we already know the defense is a problem, partly because of the personnel, partly because of what Maresca is asking them to do, but just a terrible performance, one that was starting to get so carried away in the second half that we brought on Jackson. To Jackson's credit, he did look lively, did score a goal, was marginally offsides. We had to bring in Palmer, who nearly scored a goal too, hit the post, and was looking, relatively lively. Could have easily just squared it to Nico for a tap in for that, but instead he went for the shot. Don't blame him, but you got to put it away. Brought in Tyreek George for another ineffective. Actually, that was Tyreek George came on for Madueke, who looked like he was disinterested, wasn't tracking back, wasn't running. Sort of kind of just wanted the ball to feet and just to let him go on. He did have some dangerous attacks and did get himself a few decent opportunities, but he just wasn't coming off for him today. It looked like he had one eye ahead on the weekend's game in the trip to in the home game versus Palace. I'm sorry, but Tyreek George comes on for Mudryk, who I'm sorry, man, he's just not it. We can't afford to waste too much more time on this guy developing, right? He did what Mudryk always does, right? Box to box, he gets the ball on the touchline and he beats his man. Plays some nice passes, gets in and out of traffic fairly well, but just that final third, just terrible. Poor decisions. Then when he does make the right decision, he puts in a poor cross. He's either overhitting the cross or the cutback on the cross is terrible. Just a typical Mudryk frustrating performance. One in such that you just really question whether or not he will be here come January, right? I'd be very, very shocked if he was here next year, but he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the wherewithal up top to be able to contribute to this team with other than the odd just running at folks and just creating dangerous moments off transition. But when you have to break a team down, because Servette sat off us today, they didn't even 2-0 down in the beginning on aggregate, they didn't really come out and press us, right? They didn't high press us. They didn't really chase the game. They were very, very patient and sort of just let themselves kind of naturally get into the game. But yeah, it's to the point where I wouldn't be surprised if Tyreek George, who came on and was lively, got some good praise from Maresca at post match, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts eating away at those minutes. And then you've got Neto, potentially Sancho coming in. João Felix could potentially deputize out there. Maybe Jackson, if Osimhen comes in, could be a left winger as well. So he's had 3 starts in a row, and all of them he's failed to capitalize on that opportunity. So manager's giving it to him, and he is letting those opportunities just slip between his hands. And if the opportunity comes again, January, the end of the year, to move him on, I believe that he's probably gone. But overall, like I said, very lackadaisical performance. Don't know if it was if it was the travel, if it was just the natural letdown from the big 6-2 win against Wolves on the weekend, but not a performance that inspires too much confidence or really a reality check, right? One of those performances that we look at and say, you know what, this is what we're going to be dealing with all year. We're going to have highs, we're going to have lows, we're going to play up the teams, we're going to play down the teams. We're going to have to outscore teams again because the defense and the midfield can't really control, or they can't really sniff out a lot of attacks. We're going to give up chances because of how many bodies we push forward. So it's going to be a very frustrating year, but no injuries tonight. We are through. We go back home against Palace, who we fared pretty well against over the last 3-4 years. With Neto should be back, Lavia will still be out. Reece James is, I think, his last suspension game that he's suspended for, even though he's carrying that hamstring knock. But he should be back after the international break. So the onus is on us to put in a good performance at Palace or home to Palace, and you just don't know what you're going to get. Right, Palace has dropped 2, and we'll talk about Palace a little bit more in the match preview. But yeah, it's just a performance that, coming off of that 6-2, you would expect us to or want to see us carry that momentum forward, and we dropped the ball. We got lucky. They had some opportunities down the end. I think they hit the post, but we also didn't take our chances as usual. So a lot of the same mistakes from last year, again, rearing their ugly heads. But we move. We got the win on aggregate, and that's all that's important. Tomorrow is the UECL draw, so we will check out and see who we face in this new format. But yeah, for now, just more questions, more negativity kind of going into this home match. So hopefully the atmosphere, hopefully the match-going fans are up for it and back the boys and back the manager. But we'll see. But one thing's for sure, we'll have you covered here with all Chelsea news and give you my opinion on everything that is Chelsea and things going on around the Premier League. So smash that like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Hit that subscribe button, and we will see you at the next one. Peace.